What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 222 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for February 28th, 2018. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. The final day in the month of February, and it certainly doesn't feel like this month really breezed by. The Royal Rumble, which I think was a month ago today, on the 20th of January, if I'm not mistaken, that felt like it was just yesterday, and February is already over, so it's crazy. But March should be great as well. With the road to WrestleMania in full swing, with Elimination Chamber now in our rear view window. We got Fastlane coming up next weekend, which I'm not all that excited for, and you can't blame me, given the current state of SmackDown, but I've got hope. It's going to be hard to beat. It's going to be hard to not beat last year's installment, rather, considering how terrible that show was, but Raw was pretty abysmal at that point. SmackDown's abysmal now. SmackDown could very well fall well below my expectations and put together a show that's even worse than last year's installment, which would not surprise me at all. But nonetheless, guys, we are on the road to WrestleMania. We got your great questions on tap for today's edition of Hashtag AskGSM. If you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last, but certainly not least, drop your question in the comment section down below on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So let's get started here. Joe M. from YouTube, his first question. Thoughts on the rumors that some fans at a live event were chanting things like Pearl Harbor and happy ending at Kairi Sane? And if these rumors are true, should Matt Hardy throw those fans into the lake of reincarnation? That is being generous. I would rather have them be deleted, and even that's being generous as well. Those type of wrestling fans are the fucking dirt worst. And I've dealt with them. It seems like I deal with them constantly. At every show that I buy the tickets for, except for the Royal Rumble, I think RJ bought the tickets for that. I mean, to his credit, though, the crowd that we had at that show was pretty good overall. It was only like during the kickoff show that we had a rowdy section next to us that was absolutely obnoxious. But thankfully, they were so fucking drunk they like passed out and shut the fuck up after that, and they were fine during the show itself. But like every other show that I buy the tickets for, whether it's with Jason or with RJ or with whoever I buy the tickets for to go with, we get stuck in a terrible section. Not in terms of seeing the show, but in terms of who we're surrounded by. Like the drunk assholes who don't care about wrestling and would rather chant obscene things that aren't funny and they're the only people laughing. I hate those wrestling fans. There's a lot of them, unfortunately. There's a lot of disgusting people, and they're not just wrestling fans. Those are some of them. I don't think those are rumors or reports. I think that actually happened from people that were there, which blows my mind. But, you know, kudos to Kairi Sane for taking the high road. I think she posted a picture of everyone holding hands, like an anime picture or something, when someone had tweeted her about this happening and the fact that, you know, these people are fucking, you know, the dirt worst and they're just disgusting. That was her response. So kudos to her. She's a lot nicer than I would be. I would be going off on these people, but Kairi Sane does not have that in her heart, so God bless her. His second question, how would the original Sin Cara, Tyson Kidd, and Justin Gabriel have fared in today's version of 205 Live, assuming the latter two are within the 205 weight limit? You know, and I've talked about this before, that there were rumors dating back to 2012, 6 years ago. Almost exactly. I remember writing an article about this, about the Cruiserweight show that was rumored for the upcoming WWE Network that was first reported and first announced back in late 2011, and nothing ever came of it. So they've been, you know, toying around with the idea of a Cruiserweight show even back then. And the reason I soured on it until, you know, 2016 when they did the Cruiserweight Classic, before that, we really didn't have any Cruiserweight guys left. They released a lot of them. Justin Gabriel left. The original Sin Cara was gone. Tyson Kidd retired. Evan Bourne, who would have been perfect for that division, also got released in 2014. So they had a lot of people that would have been perfect for that division back then that were just losers, that weren't doing anything on WWE TV back at that point, and they would have been perfect. I like how you said the original Sin Cara, because the new Sin Cara, Hunico, was in the Cruiserweight division for a cup of coffee in late 2016. Did nothing, but he was a part of it. The original Sin Cara, assuming that he got to know the WWE style and actually learned English, would have been a great fit for that division, considering he went nowhere in singles competition among the heavyweights on Raw and SmackDown. Tyson Kidd would have been really, really cool. Again, like you said, I don't know if they're under 205. I have no idea. I guess I could simply Google that, but I'm too lazy. Tyson Kidd would have been perfect for that division. Justin Gabriel, even more so. I think Kidd, he's a guy that would never have become like a top champion, obviously, on Raw or SmackDown, but the guy proved in NXT that he could be a breakout singles star, especially as a heel. He was awesome at that point, 2014, 2015, with Cesaro as well. But Justin Gabriel, it never really seemed like they had they had their chance to push him, like when he broke away from the Nexus in the core in 2011. They still did nothing with the guy at all, and that always disappointed me because he was super talented. And now I think he's still with Lucha. He was doing some stuff with Lucha and as PJ Black in the, what's it called? Not the Worldwide Underground with Johnny Mundo and Jack Evans. He's doing great stuff over there, assuming he comes back for the 4th season. But yeah, he'd be great for 205 Live. I think he actually recently addressed that, like, would you come back for the Cruiserweight division? I think he said no. I don't know if they ever reached out to him to come back. I'm not really sure. Maybe Evan Bourne, maybe he was the one who said they wanted him to come back, and he said no. I don't remember, but yeah, if we had this Cruiserweight division a couple years ago, I think all 3 guys would have been great fits for that division. His third question, can you rank these Fozzy songs from worst to best? Judas, Enemy, Painless, and Lights Go Out. Woof. That's a great question, because all those songs are awesome. So you must know me really, really well, or you're just a big Fozzy fan, and you know some of their greatest hits. Obviously, Judas and Painless are their most recent songs, their most recent hits. Lights Go Out was from about 2014, and I got into them around 2014. I started to listen to Fozzy around that point with that album, with the Lights Go Out album. And then Enemy came out, it was like probably their first really big hit back in, I think, 2005? I think they might have used that for a WWE pay-per-view. I feel like they used that for like either a Royal Rumble or a No Way Out show. You guys might know better than I would. I know if you go back and look, you could probably find out on Wikipedia, but again, I don't really want to do that. But nonetheless, these are all great songs. It pains me to, no pun intended, pains me to have to rank them just because they're all great. But if I had to, from worst to best, this is, just my personal opinion. Enemy at the last spot, at number 4, if only because it's a great song, but I wasn't around when it came out, and I like the other songs more. I was around when the other 3 songs came out, and I love those songs to death, and I like Enemy a lot, but it pales in comparison, in my opinion, to the other 3. Lights Go Out, people, I don't know if they love that song as much as they did Enemy and the other songs, but I still really, really liked it. I liked that song a lot when it came out. It took some time to get into it, but I liked it from 2014. Judas and Painless are really hard to rank. You would think that Judas would be the undisputed number 1, and it is for a lot of people. I'm going to put Judas in number 1, but Painless is at a very close second. Now, I tweeted this to @JamieLeeMac, a fellow Fozzy fan on Twitter just not too long ago, about a few weeks ago, saying that Painless might be my new number 1 favorite Fozzy song, just because I've been listening to it a lot recently, and then the music video is fantastic. And Judas is an amazing song, too. They used Judas for Takeover Chicago as one of the theme songs to that event last May. So I'm going to say Judas. I think Judas might be the better song overall, but Painless is a fantastic song, and it might be my favorite Fozzy song, but it's hard to sell on Judas. So from worst to best, Enemy, Lights Go Out, Painless, Judas. His fourth question, thoughts on the matchups made for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and do you have an early favorite? Yeah, I was looking at the brackets when they came out about a week or so ago, and they look good. The tag team division in NXT is pretty stacked right now. And I know they have like Tino Sabatelli and Riddick Moss in there, who seemingly split up a few weeks ago, but they're probably going to do the same thing with them that they did with Blake and Murphy, where they tease a split for like weeks, if not months, before finally going their separate ways, which I think is a mistake. And I like Tino Sabatelli a lot, but I don't think right now is the time to be breaking him off out of the tag team division, because they need heel tag teams in NXT. And also, I don't think either of them are going to go anywhere right now on their own. But anyway, the brackets themselves look really good. There are only 8 teams in this year's bracket as opposed to 16, which is kind of not unfortunate, and it's not like we had 16 tag teams during the previous 2 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics. They either debuted new teams or they put together makeshift tag teams. Like we had Rich Swann and No Way Jose. We had TJP and I think it was Kota Ibushi? Yeah, you said Hideo Itami got hurt, so that's what it was. And I wish we would go back to that. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, they have other plans for people, but like a Velveteen Dream Aleister Black tag team would be fucking awesome. Or like a Leo Rush and Ricochet. You know, like a tag team like that would be fucking phenomenal as well. They probably have other plans for these people. But, you know, the 8 teams are still good because at least these are the regular tag teams. They're cutting out the filler. We know who's advancing. Looks great on paper. I like how we have TM61 and the Authors of Pain, which was the finals of the last year's, or the 2016 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Now they're in the first round against each other, which is pretty cool. But I'm liking it. So the early favorite, I was thinking about this yesterday, because as opposed to past years, and past tag teams, or no, the first year when Balor and Joe won and nothing happened, they ended up feuding against each other. In 2016, Authors of Pain ended up earning a tag team title match. But this one, the winners will absolutely go on a takeover to become the #1 contenders to the NXT tag team titles. Now, I'm thinking Sanity's the obvious pick, if only because they still have their rematch for the NXT Tag Team Championship, which they attempted to cash in twice, and nothing came of it on NXT. So they still have their rematch, and I like the match. Sanity and Undisputed Era, they've had a good feud going recently, but I'm ready for a new tag team to come out. I don't think Sanity needs the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic win. They really don't. I would much rather see TM61 win it, considering they went all the way to the finals last time and they lost, or the Street Profits. I don't think they're winning, but they should get all the way to the finals with TM61. That'd be a great final matchup. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with, if not Sanity, then TM61. I think TM61 would be a great fit. The story's there. They just came back from injury, and they're trying to prove themselves as one of the best tag teams in the world. People are getting behind them right now. I'm all in on them winning the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic this year and facing Undisputed Era at TakeOver New Orleans for the tag team titles. Lane of the Wire, our next question from YouTube. My biggest takeaway from Elimination Chamber is that Alexa Bliss is the smartest person on the show. How come Sasha Banks did not wait before eliminating Alexa to turn on Bayley? For that matter, why didn't Seth Rollins wait to eliminate Braun Strowman first with Roman Reigns before trying to pin Reigns? I was thinking the same exact thing. I was watching the show with Jason and 2 other friends who are not really wrestling fans at all. They're, if anything, casual fans, but I wouldn't even go that far. They simply watch the pay-per-views with us. And they were asking the same thing after I brought it up. Like, why wouldn't you wait? Like, I know you could still turn on them. It's probably more of a surprise now to turn on someone as opposed to, you know, after you eliminate, you know, whether it be Alexa Bliss or Braun Strowman, whatever, what have you. But yeah, I thought that was weird. Like, with Alexa, I almost understand it. Maybe Banks that, okay, if I get rid of Bayley now, I can get rid of, Alexa myself later on. I kind of sort of get that. With Braun Strowman, though, what the fuck was Seth thinking? That he can get rid of Braun by himself? What a dumb thing to assume. I thought that was really stupid, at least in Seth's case. The women's case, the same exact thing, but yeah, that occurred to me as well. Like, why wouldn't you just wait until after you guys take out the champion or the biggest threat in the matchup before turning on her? Like, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to make a difference. And Sasha didn't eliminate Bayley anyway. I don't think. I think it was Alexa. So I thought that was really silly. But that's merely nitpicking in my opinion. Elena's second question. What is with WWE's weird handling of superstars versus authority? We're supposed to hate Brock Lesnar for quote-unquote no showing and not automatically doing as he's told, but we're also supposed to hate The Miz for being mad at his boss for vaguely telling him he might have a match at WrestleMania, a way too real concern for a secondary champion. Are we supposed to hate these self-serving authority figures who are toying with the talent, or do we think all employees should shut up and do what the bosses say? Why is it both? Yeah, it's the narrative that WWE likes to twist based on who's in the situation. I agree with the Miz thing. The Brock thing, I think you're stretching a bit there. Because I don't think we're supposed to hate Brock Lesnar for no showing. And I mean, yeah, I guess we are. But the second part of your statement there, for not automatically doing as he's told. Of course we're supposed to hate Brock Lesnar. The guy in storyline, which he didn't actually no-show. For anyone who actually believes that is fucking out of their mind. It was obviously scripted. They told Brock to not come. I thought he might have been backstage. He wasn't. They just told him to not show up along with Paul Heyman because they wanted to make it a shoot, brother. And I don't know if anyone asked about this. Maybe I'll just talk about it now. But with Roman Reigns in the shoot thing, and he's a little bitch. Oh my God, he said bitch. Like, the only reason they want Roman to shoot, and they're doing that type of stuff. This is the same reason they did it back during the John Cena feud, which Roman Reigns got fucking verbally buried during, start to finish in that feud, until he won the match at No Mercy against Cena. But on the mic, the guy got buried by John Cena. And the reason they bring up shoot things and real life things is because they want people to cheer Roman. That's the only way. Kudos to WWE for finally figuring that out, but that's the only way people will ever cheer Roman Reigns, is if he shoots from the hip and he pretends, like he's breaking down the fourth wall and that it's not a scripted promo. Why the fuck would they have cut off his mic if he was shooting on Brock Lesnar? Their top guy, their champion. That makes no sense. I know that's not your question. I just wanted to bring that up because people were buying into it like sheep, like, oh my god, he's shooting on Brock Lesnar. Like, no, he's not. It was obviously a scripted promo. It was a very good promo, but you have to see what they're doing here. Like, with the Shield, the only reason they brought back the Shield was to make you cheer Roman Reigns. The only reason they cut a shoot promo here was because they want you to cheer Roman Reigns. That's the end goal in all of this. It's not going to work. Everyone's still, or 90% of the crowd at WrestleMania in New Orleans, is still going to boo Roman Reigns when he beats Brock for the belt. Like, it doesn't matter what they do, they're still going to boo Roman Reigns. It's not going to make a difference. But anyway, I see what you're saying. WWE's narrative is that, it's double standards. It's really what they want to go for here. Yeah, it does make very little sense that with Brock, they want us to hate him for not showing up and doing as he's told, as he should. I mean, the guy should show up. With The Miz, he's supposed to come off as a complainer, but yeah, it's a little weird that that he was supposed to face both Miz and Balor, both Balor and Rollins in the same night. I'm not sure what angle was going for there. Captain Sunshine from YouTube, I am legitimately worried for Shane McMahon. Dude was all red and out of breath from eating popcorn. Are we absolutely sure he should not take time off from SmackDown Live? You know what? If only they should take him off SmackDown for the awful angle they have him with Daniel Bryan. I don't care about how he's all red in the face eating popcorn. The fact they should take him off SmackDown is due to how he's so overexposed right now. And Daniel Bryan too. I mean, we just celebrated 2 years since Shane came back to WWE in that amazing moment on Raw right after Fastlane 2016. It was unbelievable, that pop that he got. That was a great moment. They have made a lot of people dislike Shane McMahon. And the guy's still a babyface. That's all on creative. It's not anything Shane did. It's not anything Daniel Bryan did. It's all because of what they're being told to do. And storyline and this, like, oh, I'm not going to do what you tell me. I'm your authority figure. I'm your boss. Okay. And all this other shit that's just making us dislike them even more. It's terrible. But if for any other reason they should take him off TV, it's not for that, but rather because this angle has been atrocious. And there's seemingly no, end game in sight. Captain's second question here. Why is it that everybody Alexa Bliss feuds with reverts back to their previous state? Mickie James is suddenly friends with her again, and Nia Jax betraying her the night she won the Raw Women's title again has been wiped from memory. The Mickie James thing is weird. I know they kind of sort of reunited last week on Raw, but it was never really explained beyond that. It looked like that the only obvious reason that with Mickie James, why she turned heel or went rogue or whatever, was, the only reason that Alexa Bliss attempted to manipulate her was because she wanted her on her side in the Elimination Chamber to ensure that she retained her title. Elimination Chamber's over. I'm not sure really why she needs Mickie anymore. This was the same story they told with them about a year ago. So why Mickie wouldn't see through that after Alexa Bliss called her old and all this other shit literally 4 months ago, I don't know. With Nia Jax, that goes well beyond what's happened recently with her playing Alexa Bliss. Because they were still pretending they were friends earlier on this year. And she turned down Alexa like back in September. They were pretending to be friends and like everything was all hunky-dory back earlier this year when Nia was doing that whole thing with Enzo. Which, thank God, was scrapped because Enzo got cut. But yeah, they were pretending they were good friends back then. Like Alexa Bliss is like, oh, I know what's best for you. And they were still teasing tension. But it's like, dude, she turned on you a couple months ago. I know it's every woman for themselves in the Raw Women's Championship picture, as evidenced by Bayley and Sasha Banks, but it's not a matter of creative wanting us to forget with Alexa and Nia. Maybe that is part of it, but it's just poor storytelling. Like, they already had her turn on her multiple times. They had a match last year, too, like last May or June or something like that was completely forgotten about. I know Alexa versus Nia has been the end game the entire time, so I guess it kind of sort of makes sense, But yeah, they are on and off again like every other week, so maybe that's just creative's typical vision of how women work, that they're friends one week and they're enemies the next. Maybe that's just Kevin Dunn's or the creative team's vision. Brandon A. from YouTube. I will go to my first NXT live event this Friday. I am excited, but I would like to know how long are the shows typically, and do they tone the wrestling down because it's a live event and not a TV broadcast? For the main roster shows, yeah, a little bit. I'm trying to think of the last main roster house show that I went to was like back in December with Raw, and it was a good show too. I didn't see any amazing matches. I know John Cena and Roman Reigns in the main event was actually pretty good, and as well as Rollins and Jordan versus Cesaro and Sheamus in a steel cage tag team match for the Raw tag team titles. That was a good match as well. For NXT though, no, they go all out. NXT does not tone anything down. You can ask RJ, you can ask Noah, you can ask anyone I've ever gone to an NXT house show with. Because every single one, I think I've been to 3 at this point. I went to one in early April of 2016, November of 2016, and then one last September. And they were all great. We had Drew McIntyre versus Andrade Cien Almas in the main event, Lars Sullivan versus Oney Larkin, which was a fucking awesome match, shockingly. That was before they had their TV match. That was before a lot of people knew what Lars Sullivan could do. When in there with the right opponent. And that was really, really good. What else was on that show that was like really, really good? Sanity and Undisputed Era. There were a lot of good matches. Oh, Hideo Itami and Roderick Strong had a great match too. Roderick Strong and Cedric Alexander had one of the best matches I've seen in a long-ass time at the NXT house show that I went to in Boston in November of 2016. That was fucking amazing, which is why I can't wait to see them clash in the upcoming Cruiserweight Championship tournament in the semifinals. That should be fucking phenomenal, I think, in 2 weeks. But yeah, so they don't really tone down the wrestling on an NXT house show. Maybe for the main roster shows, never for NXT. You're always guaranteed to get a great show, whether it's televised, a takeover, a TV taping, or a house show, or what have you. NXT always delivers. I have yet to go to an NXT show that was not a ton of fun. And that can be said for a lot of wrestling shows too. But with NXT, you're not going to get, the baby faces always win, or it's always super predictable, or this or that. Like, it's a lot of fun. And they're always super interactive, and they have great merch, and it's usually smaller crowds, so it's more, that better atmosphere with the audience. And I really enjoy the NXT shows. How typically long do they go? Maybe 3.5 hours. I don't remember exactly. I think the ones that I've been to usually ran around 3.5 hours, and that's with intermissions, and they usually start a little bit late. I would say maybe not even 3.5 hours, probably closer to 3 hours, if not 2.5 hours. It's definitely on the shorter side. They don't run long because they don't have a lot of matches. Maybe 7 matches, 7-8 matches. With the intermission, it comes out to around 2.5 hours, 3 hours sometimes. But they're not really that long, and when the shows are that good, the time flies by. Brandon's second question, outside of the cruiserweights, which mid-card wrestlers or low undercard wrestlers are suffering the most right now from WWE limiting them in the ring? Apollo Crews. Or Apollo, don't call me Crews, because apparently the last name is no more. Apollo is the first name that I thought of when I saw your question. He absolutely is being limited right now. Because the guy's, I was going to say never on TV because he is. But when he's allowed to shine, the guy is fucking great. Like the matches that Titus Worldwide had with Sheamus and Cesaro, who give two shits. But when Apollo's in there, the guy's really, really good. He's really, really good, which is why it's, such a shame they don't really do anything with him. The Titus Worldwide thing is fucking terrible. They're a joke. Awful. No one cares about these guys. Apollo being with Titus is the kiss of death as a tag team, because no one gives a shit about Titus. And Apollo is suffering by association with Titus O'Neil. But anyway, the guy's really, really good. They absolutely limit him. He had a very good run in NXT. They called him up way too soon. And he really has not yet had that one breakout singles match. He's had a couple here and there with like AJ Styles and The Miz and a few others. But beyond that, he's just another guy. The fact the guy doesn't have a character doesn't help either, obviously. But in the ring, they absolutely limit him because he's a jobber. And that's all he's really good for. Same can be said for Ty Dillinger. He's not nearly as good in the ring as Apollo is. But the guy is really good. And they could be doing more with him. I'm not saying he needs to be the United States champion or anything. But Ty Dillinger is a very good worker. And when they're not really using him, and he can be over with the 10 thing, but because the booking of him is so, so spotty, I guess might be the right word, because he's never on TV. He'll rarely win any singles matches. So the guy's a loser with no character. But in the ring, the guy can be a lot of fun. He proved that in NXT with great matches, and even though they were short, but he can work well with guys from Bobby Roode to Shinsuke Nakamura, from AJ Styles to Baron Corbin. The guy can work well with pretty much anybody, but they don't really allow him to showcase those skills. Luke Harper, all day, every day. That guy is awesome, but you would never know that based off the fact that he's in a fucking tag team constantly, and because when he's on his own, he's never allowed to showcase his skills. And the rare times that they do, they don't capitalize on the popularity that he has. Case in point, Elimination Chamber last year, he had a great match with Randy Orton. That Orton won, but Harper was finally able to kind of break off on his own, show what he's made of, and show how great he was in the ring, and surprise, surprise, he got over. But WWE did nothing with the guy, and they took him off TV, and they put him back with Eric Rowan, which the Bludgeon Brothers are a good tag team, but it's like Harper could be so much more on his own. It pisses me off. And then Chad Gable, too. I would say he's a mid-card, undercard guy, whatever, is in the tag team with Benjamin. Gable is so good. Like, people know that, but if you go back and watch those matches that he had with AJ Styles last year, Kevin Owens and Rusev, the guy is so fucking good. But they never really allow him to go all out in his matches. The Usos were getting there in that match with Benjamin and Gable back at the Rumble, but it ended way too abruptly for people to really take notice of how great Gable was in that match. People were really just talking about how bad the finish was. But Gable is really, really good. Not only in the ring, but as a character, too. He is totally limited. And I like Shelton Benjamin. I like their tag team. But if they're not going to do anything with these guys, make Gable break off on his own and do something with him as a singles guy. Because on his own, I mean, in the tag team he's good, but he's being limited right now. And they could be doing so much more with guys like Gable, Luke Harper, maybe Dillinger, and definitely Apollo. His next question: a while back I asked you who would you want on your side from WWE in the zombie apocalypse, 7 men and 3 women. I never followed up with you. I'm going to ask you the same question, and I will follow up with you next week for an answer. Some things to consider to help you answer, based upon zombie shows and movies that I've watched, mainly The Walking Dead, include: strong people are obviously good, but you also have to factor in feeding all of these strong people. Hot-headed people cause a lot of problems, even with the greatest of intentions. Zombies aren't the only enemy. Other people can be even bigger threats, so judging character is crucial. Knowing when to run and evade is just as crucial as knowing when to fight. Having a person serve as a moral compass is very important. Having specific skill sets are obviously very beneficial, such as doctors, farmers, handymen, etc. A lot of that does not apply to wrestling. We don't have doctors, except for John Cena being the doctor of thugonomics. Farmers, handymen, we don't have any of that shit in wrestling. So, I assume you mean from the current roster. I think that's what your original question was when you asked this months ago. So, I'll just name off 10 people right now. 7 men and 3 women. And my reasons for having all of them by my side. Obviously, Braun Strowman, because the guy is he's the monster among men. Why wouldn't you want him on your side in a zombie apocalypse? I know for the reasons you mentioned, you have to feed the guy. Who cares? Braun has died at least 7 times in kayfabe in WWE. He's come back every single time. So I'm sure if the zombies kill him, he'd come right back to life anyway. So, unless he becomes a zombie himself, and then we're all fucked. But Braun Strowman on my side. For the women, Asuka, because she could legitimately kill someone. And she probably never eats either. Not to say that she's skinny, but she's so small, I'm sure. I can't imagine she eats a lot anyway. But yeah, Asuka would be great because she can legitimately kick someone's ass. Same thing with Ronda Rousey. Bayley, if only because she's level-headed. And if I'm going to have a woman by my side for the rest of my existence on this earth, it's going to be Bayley from the women's roster. Don't tell my girlfriend I said that. Other men to include in this zombie apocalypse: Samoa Joe, a legitimate badass. Why wouldn't you want him on your side? Brock Lesnar, that's a gimme. John Cena, because you can never see the fucking guy. How can you attack someone that you can't see? Again, gimme. Seth Rollins, you mentioned the quickness and just an overall good guy. I mean, then again, he might turn on you like he turned on the Shield back in 2014, but it's a risk worth taking. So Seth Rollins. Finn Balor, he's the demon. the Demon versus the Zombies, they might, in a form of friendship, and Balor can kind of take the focus away from me and put it on himself as the Demon, so he can be the king of the zombies and maybe convince them to not eat me, so that works. And Randy Orton, because he strikes out of nowhere. The zombies would not know what hit them. So again, Braun Strowman, Asuka, Bayley, Ronda Rousey, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and Randy Orton. Next couple of questions come from Facebook, starting with Mark S. What was your favorite match from Elimination Chamber, and how would you rate it compared to other Elimination Chambers? Favorite match is probably the women's match. Not even probably, it was. The main event I thought was good. Asuka and Nia Jax was way better than I thought it was going to be, and I'll talk about that later on because RJ asked something about that. That was a very good match. But yeah, the women's Elimination Chamber I thought was great. And I enjoyed the Titus Worldwide and the Sheamus and Cesaro tag match was fine. It was okay. Hardy and Wyatt, the crowd could not have given two shits. They were too busy with the fucking wave and the beach balls, but I thought it was decent too. But my favorite match was the Women's Chamber. I thought it was a great match. Very well laid out. There was some suspense there at the end with maybe Banks is going to win, turning on Bayley, quote-unquote, the way that Absolution was used and Mickie James. I liked the whole thing. I thought it was a really, really good match. How would I rate it to other Elimination Chambers? Like, you mean the matches or the pay-per-views? I'll do both. In terms of other Elimination Chamber matches, I don't know if it was one of the greatest of all time, but it was one of the better ones, the women's. The men's was, I would probably put right in the middle. I thought it was very good, but last year's was way better. There's a few others I've seen that were way better than the one from the men that I saw in the main event. But it was also really, really good and also well laid out. But yeah, from the women, I would put it towards, probably, I don't know if it's top 5, but it's definitely towards the top as opposed to towards the bottom. Pay-per-views, it's probably in line with every Elimination Chamber pay-per-view I've ever seen, where like the main match is delivered, but the undercard is abysmal. Last year was like that too. There was a lot of high praise for last year's show, probably because the main event was so good. We had a couple other really good matches too. I thought it was a solid show overall. The undercard was really not that strong at all. And it was probably better than this year's installment, but it wasn't a must-see show by any means. We didn't have one in 2016. The 2015 Elimination Chamber show was, again, the undercard sucked. The Elimination Chamber matches themselves were not good at all. But what saved that show was having John Cena and Kevin Owens on the card, as well as Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. 2014, again, terrible undercard, but a great chamber match in the main event. So it's kind of been the theme for the Elimination Chamber shows over the years, where the undercards are kind of like meh. It's kind of just there. I enjoy the shows overall, but they're not must-see by any means. I would not go back and watch the show in its entirety tomorrow, but it wasn't bad. So I'll give it that. How would you book Braun Strowman at WrestleMania? Well, I'll tell you how I wouldn't book him and putting him in a match with Elias. Putting him in a match with Elias would be fucking... What a waste. What a waste. And I like Elias. I love Elias. But Elias doesn't even need to wrestle at WrestleMania. The guy can have a concert, and that's it. Elias does not need to do anything in the ring at WrestleMania. If he does, that's fine, but... And I like Elias, but it's a waste of Braun Strowman. Their most over guy not even on Raw, in the entire company right now. The entire company. The guy's one of the most over people on the roster. On the entire WWE roster. And you put him in a fucking kickoff level match with Elias. That has no meaning, no real story told. Who cares? And the idea that, I can't buy this at all. This is total bullshit. I don't know if Meltzer is just pulling our legs, or what's going on here, or if he's just being an idiot. But it's like the idea that they would be holding out, reportedly, on putting Braun in any important match is because they think this drug scandal thing, the steroid ring with Roman Reigns, is going to go south and they have to take Roman off TV, or even Brock. I don't know why they'd have to take Brock off TV, unless they had a suspicion he was doing roids again or something. But even then, they wouldn't take the guy off TV, because he's a part-timer and he's not subjected to the same rules and regulations as the main roster full-time talent, so it doesn't even matter anyway. Whatever. But the idea that they would be keeping him on the sidelines just in case that something happens there is stupid. They have to know the match is going to go off without a hitch. They're doing Roman and Braun at WrestleMania, or Roman and Brock at WrestleMania. That's not changing. Whether WWE, they don't want it to change anyway, but it's not going to change this whole steroid ring thing. All I keep hearing is that, I have evidence. The guy has evidence. The guy has evidence. If he had evidence, he would have showed him by now. He doesn't have any evidence. I don't think so anyway. If he does, I'd be shocked beyond belief. And I'll eat my words. But for right now, I'm not buying what that guy's selling. I'm not talking about the drugs, but the fact that Roman is a fucking drug dealer or whatever. There's nothing there. There's no connection. They have no proof. And they probably will never have any proof. I don't know why he'd be blaming Roman Reigns, but still, the whole thing is just weird. So Roman and Brock is happening no matter what. With Braun, they can't be like fiddling with him on the side like, okay, maybe we can insert you if Roman gets busted, which he won't, so they're wasting their time. They should put Braun in another big-time level match. What would they do is your question with Braun Strowman. Well, Cena and Joe would be great, but they might be doing, obviously, Cena and Taker's the direction they're headed in. But Joe and Braun, if Joe's good to go, would be cool. I don't know what Joe's status is. We haven't heard from Joe at all. And we haven't heard from WWE in regards to an update or even the dirt sheets. I mean, I've heard various things that he might miss WrestleMania. He's off live events. He could be back ahead of time. He got hurt right around the same time that Rollins got hurt last year. Obviously, two very different injuries. But with Samoa Joe, it's obviously a much minor injury than what Rollins had. He could be back before Mania. We don't know yet. And I hope he is. So him and Braun would be fine. It's a fresh match that we've never seen before one-on-one. And it's a high-profile match for both guys. And Joe deserves a high-profile match at his first WrestleMania, too. I don't think Braun's wrestled at a WrestleMania yet. He was at WrestleMania 32, I think, in the Bray Wyatt segment, which was fucking a waste of time with The Rock. He debuted in 2015. So WrestleMania 32, yeah, he had that segment. And at 33, he was on the kickoff show in the fucking Battle Royal, which he got tossed out of halfway through. What a waste. Like, I got it. He has to be on the card this year. So, anyway, if not Samoa Joe, could you do an interpromotional match with someone from SmackDown? I don't know what you would do. I mean, obviously, Braun and Miz was the direction they were seemingly headed in, but that's not happening anymore. Unless they do Miz, Balor, and Rollins on Raw, which I don't think they would, because Rollins specifically said he wanted the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. So they're doing that three-way, which I'm all in favor of. I like that match a lot more than Braun and Miz, because that's a total mismatch. But I don't want to leave Braun off the card. You're not going to put him in the fucking Battle Royal again, which no one cares about. I know they're trying to make it a bigger deal with the Andre the Giant Memorial, or the Andre the Giant documentary coming out after WrestleMania. But still, no one gives a shit about it. Why should anyone care about the Battle Royal? The last three winners have gone on to do nothing. So the Battle Royal has no meaning. So putting Braun in that and having him win that, who the fuck cares? They got to put him in a big singles match in the show. And if they won't put him in the main event and make it a three-way with Brock and Roman, and if it's not Samoa Joe, then I honestly have no idea. Maybe him and John? I would honestly prefer that over John Cena and Taker at this point. Anything but Cena and Taker. Which would not be the worst thing, but it's like 10 years too late. So I'm all set on that. But with Braun, I honestly don't know. I really don't know. Maybe they have him jump ship to SmackDown, do something over there. At this point, that might be for the worst, considering the current state of SmackDown. I really don't know. But leaving him off the card or doing a match with Elias at WrestleMania that's not looking good for Braun, I'll tell you that much. Who would you like to see John Cena face at WrestleMania if it was your choice? Well, and I mean, RJ mentioned this a little later on, so I'll get to it, but there were reports last night after SmackDown that Rey Mysterio was backstage in potential negotiations with officials about a possible WWE return sooner rather than later. It's always been believed that he'd be back. Like, at some point or another, he's scheduled for shows in, like, fucking New Japan coming up. He's done indie shows. He's doing a lot of stuff in the next couple of months. But they might want him back at WrestleMania. And if so, apparently the rumored match, which I cannot buy, if Cena and Taker was already set in stone, the rumored match is John Cena and Rey Mysterio, which honestly I'd be in full favor of. They had that great match on Raw back in 2011, one of my favorite Raw matches of all time, especially in recent years. And you can tell the story that, John Cena ended Rey's reign as WWE champion after like 2 hours. Less than 2 hours. And Rey never got over that. Now, granted, it's going back to 2011 here. But they also interacted in the Rumble. There are two guys that have never really had a one-on-one match. They had that match, a one-off match on SmackDown in 2003, which blows my mind. They've only had 2 matches in like 15 years together in WWE. That's crazy. Or more like 10 years, because Ray left in like 2005, or 2015, excuse me. But still, that's a long time to go without having a full-fledged feud between them. So I'd be in full favor of that. Or Samoa Joe I like a lot too, because it makes more sense than him and Rey, if only because they were telling that story before Joe got hurt. So Cena and Joe, fresh match. It's a WrestleMania-worthy match in my opinion. Cena and I mean, like I said, Cena and Braun, maybe. It gives both guys something to do. I don't know what the purpose of it would be. As long as Braun wins, I would hope that he would, but you never know. Especially since Cena has not lost a WrestleMania match since WrestleMania 28, 6 years ago. I think he's owed a loss at one of these WrestleManias. But anyway, yeah, Cena and Joe, Cena and Ray, Cena and Braun, maybe. Cena and... I was saying Cena and Balor, but obviously Balor looks to be involved in the IC title picture, so probably not. From the SmackDown side, obviously Styles and Nakamura are seemingly tied up with each other, so hopefully that doesn't change. I don't know what else you would do. Who else from SmackDown needs a WrestleMania match? Owens and Zayn, we've seen that before with John Cena. I mean, maybe not Zayn, but Cena does not need to be with them. Cena and Corbin, no thanks. Cena and Ziggler again, no thanks. They don't really have anybody. Bobby Roode would be cool, but the guy's a babyface right now that just doesn't really make much sense at this point. Him and Randy Orton, next. I don't know who else there is from SmackDown for him to face. Rusev? Been there, done that. Remember the Tank? Never mind. From WrestleMania 31, then the guy got buried. Never mind. But yeah, Cena and Joe is the match that I would go with. Anything but Cena and Taker. Anything but Cena. I mean, maybe not Cena and fucking like Mike Kanellis, but, you know, still. At least that'd be a better match than Cena and Taker in 2018, which I don't think will be any good. I feel like that ship sailed years ago. At this point, move on. Taker should not be WrestleMania, but that's just me. His next question: who would be your early favorites to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic this year if you have seen the brackets and challenged the Undisputed Era at the next NXT TakeOver? So, yeah, like I said before, I would have either the Street Profits or probably TM61 win it. They're my early favorite, and I think they're going to win it. I have Johnny Mundo, or let's see. Deshaun K's got a couple questions. His first question, we'll get to the Johnny Mundo question in a second. His first question, rather, from Facebook: what are your biggest pet peeves you wish WWE would stop doing when it comes to WrestleMania? Dude, I've said this a million times. The multi-man matches, it's gotta end. The fucking multi-women, multi-man matches, it gets nobody over, and the matches are rarely any good. I understand having one designated multi-man match, whether it's the Money in the Bank or the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That's fine. But doing 8-man ladder matches for the Cruiserweight Championship and the fucking IC United States title, and then like 10-woman matches, whether it be tag team or fucking 8-pack challenges, who cares? The SmackDown Women's title match last year wasn't bad, but it's like with the 5 minutes they were given, it was not good. It was a little rough. The Raw Women's match, very good match, rushed beyond belief just because they had to get all the women on the card. I mean, not every woman from Raw like they did with SmackDown, but still, it could have just been Bayley and Banks one-on-one, or Bayley and Charlotte one-on-one. The multi-women shit has got to end this year. It's got to fucking end. But yeah, I hate the mindset, and I won't go on about this forever, because you guys heard me rant about this before. The mindset that everyone has to be on the card. It was never, ever like that, and it shouldn't be like that. I know wanting to get everyone a WrestleMania payday, keep that shit in the kickoff show. Not everyone needs to be a WrestleMania. Why the fuck should Mike Kanellis be a WrestleMania in an 8-man, in theory, 8-man ladder match for the IC title when he hasn't done jack shit all year? And that's not a distant possibility either. It's not completely out of the question. Look no further than WrestleMania 32. That's when it was completely out of control. We had that like 8-man ladder match, the IC title, great match. And I like Zack Ryder. What the fuck did he do from 2015 to 2016 to deserve a match at WrestleMania? What the fuck did Sin Cara do to deserve a ladder match at WrestleMania when Bray Wyatt wasn't even wrestling on the card? Makes no sense. So I hate that they do that. It's definitely my biggest pet peeve when it comes to WrestleMania, that they would stop doing, please. Deshaun's second question: if Johnny Mundo was to come back to WWE, do you think it would be a good idea to reunite him with The Miz, or do you prefer Mundo in singles competition? I think either one would be a good idea. They would really have to do something with him, though. He comes from the same era as guys like Shelton Benjamin, people like that. If they're just going to bring him back to job people out, or just to be jobbed out, then that's not worth it, because that's what he was doing when he left in 2011. And I know they have a star-studded SmackDown show right now, despite how badly booked it is, in Raw, too. So I'm not even sure if the timing is right for him to come back, and thankfully they're doing a 4th season of Lucha Underground, and he'll be a part of that, so he's not coming back anytime soon. I think he could be back down the road. I think he's on good terms with the company, and he has discussed it before that I think he outright said he wants to go back to WWE. Now's not the right time. He's also in Impact right now. Just kill time there, because right now is not the best time. I think Benjamin is good where he is as an enhancement talent, as a tag team guy, whatever. Mundo, John Morrison, Johnny Impact, whatever the fuck you want to call him, is better than that. Especially with how far he's come in the last 7 years since he left the company. Guy's grown exponentially on the mic as a character, and even in the ring. He's a lot better than he was when he left in 2011. I like the idea a lot with The Miz. I love the idea of him reuniting with The Miz or feuding with The Miz over like the IC title. That would be great. The Miz is another guy a lot like Mundo, where in the time away, he has really evolved as a performer. It was The Miz, who was Johnny Mundo's, John Morrison's, last opponent in WWE, which was perfect considering their history as tag team partners and rivals. It was The Miz who technically retired John Morrison from WWE. So I thought that was great. But yeah, they could always reunite that, and they could always go back to that when John Morrison comes back, either as a feud or putting Mundo and The Miz to rise with a guy like Dolph Ziggler. I think they would be better than Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, who are lackeys and they do great they're great in their role. But I think Mundo and Ziggler, even Zack Ryder with The Miz would be a great stable. Considering they're all friends in real life anyway, I think the chemistry would be off the charts. His third question here: do you think it'd be a good idea if WWE brought back Mr. Kennedy for NXT, reviving his career and winning the NXT Championship sometime this year or next year possibly, having their next Bobby Roode? I'm sorry, dude. I love Mr. Kennedy. That sounds like a terrible idea. Atrocious. Mr. Kennedy is not Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode is better in the ring. Mr. Kennedy was a great mic worker. And I think it was Randy Cruz on Twitter a while back who said, who has the better entrance, Kennedy or Bobby Roode? A lot of people said Kennedy. That's a lot of nostalgia marks right there. Ooh, just because I grew up watching Raw in 06, like, oh, Mr. Kennedy is a better entrance. He really doesn't. I love the mic thing, and Kennedy is great. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to shit on Mr. Kennedy. But with Bobby Roode, the guy had a presence about him. He was a star. Kennedy was a star 10 years ago. They fucked up. They dropped the ball on him. He went to TNA for a couple years. TNA had a good run over there. Then he got cut in 2016. Even at the end there, the guy wasn't doing anything in TNA. He's been running indies. I would love to see Kennedy back for like a one-off. Don't get me wrong, I'd mark the fuck out if he ever came back for Raw or for a Rumble or something. But bringing him to NXT to win the NXT Championship when you have fucking Adam Cole, Andrade Cien Almas, Drew McIntyre, Aleister Black, and the list goes on of stars right now in NXT that are much higher up on the totem pole and are much better than Mr. Kennedy, that sounds like an awful idea. I'm sorry, that sounds atrocious. Am I the only one that thinks Neville should be in Dolph Ziggler's spot right now? I feel if that were to happen, Neville would have a ton of momentum, starting from the Royal Rumble, which he wouldn't win, obviously, but at least he would get a strong showing by eliminating John Cena or Roman Reigns, for example. Yeah, no, I think that would have been great. He absolutely should be in Ziggler's spot right now. Or even, part of the, which I think Jeremy 8911, who we'll get to in a second, he also pitched a while ago, what if Neville joined Owens and Zayn as disgruntled employees, and they're great in the ring. They're all good friends anyway, so it would make perfect sense. That would be awesome. But yeah, Neville and Ziggler's spot would absolutely be the case. Ziggler in 2018, guy's good in the ring. I like Ziggler. Has no business being in a pay-per-view main event after the awful last year that he's had in WWE. Why the fuck does he deserve to be in a multi-man match for the WWE title WrestleMania, or at Fastlane, to possibly win the title and go on to WrestleMania? The guy's a loser. He's the ultimate loser. Why the fuck should I care? Neville had a great reign as Cruiserweight Champion. I know they kind of pigeonhole him as the Cruiserweight guy. Maybe they never really thought, oh, we're going to take him out of the Cruiserweight division, which maybe is why he walked out. I guess we'll never really know, at least not anytime soon. But with Neville, it's like the guy could have been doing way better stuff. The Cruiserweight stuff was great. Again, don't get me wrong, but he could be positioned higher up in the card with what he was doing last year, and nobody would bat an eyelash because the guy is so fucking good. Again, I don't know if Neville would be in main events for the WWE title, but you know what? He deserves it. The guy's really, really good. I mean, deserving it and being out of place in a main event are two different things. But I think if they booked him the right way and made him a threat, then yeah, he would be in a much better spot. I think he'd be a much better fit for that spot that Ziggler's in right now than Dolph Ziggler. Or I think he'd be a much better fit, for that spot that Ziggler's in right now than Ziggler himself. Just because Neville deserves a lot better. I don't know if he's ever coming back. It doesn't look like it. The guy's been gone now for like 5-6 months. Doesn't look like he's ever returning, which sucks. But how is it? I mean, I said this on Twitter a few weeks ago that, they make such an effort to keep Dolph Ziggler for whatever reason, because the guy is good, but there's so many other people on the roster that are much better than him at this point. They make such an effort to keep Dolph Ziggler to ensure that he doesn't go to the Indies, but apparently they don't give a shit about Neville. Now, I shouldn't say that because otherwise they would have released him already, a lot like they did Rich Swann, who's not going to fucking make a difference on the Indies compared to whether he was in WWE or not. With Neville, the reason they haven't released him yet is because they don't want him to go to the Indies. So he will go there eventually when when his contract expires, inevitably. But in the meantime, though, why even bother keeping him under contract? Just let him go. Neville, I think, could be a way bigger asset to the Indies than even Ziggler could. Neville at this point in the indie scene, with how hot the Indies are right now, would be amazing. So why let him go and keep Dolph Ziggler? Ziggler could also be, I don't know if he would move the needle for Impact or Ring of Honor, but I think he'd be a bigger star elsewhere than he would be in WWE, but I still think Neville's a bigger star to lose because he has so much more left to offer in WWE. So why go out of your way to offer Dolph Ziggler more money for him to stay, but just not give a shit about Neville? I'm sure they're trying to get him back. They don't want him to leave, otherwise they would have released him already, like I said, but it's like, why not give Neville the push they're giving Ziggler right now? That's probably what Neville wants. I'm not saying give everything Neville. I'm not saying that walking out should justify, I'm not justifying his walkout by saying, oh, they should push him to get him to stay. But it's like, I don't know. I think he would be a much better fit for that spot than Ziggler is. And he's a much better investment, too, because Ziggler, they have done everything with him at least twice over the last 10 years. With Neville, he has a lot left to accomplish in WWE. And letting him go is a dumb decision, especially when they're paying so much money to keep Dolph Ziggler. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, in my opinion, WWE should have went with Nakamura versus John Cena at Fastlane, where if Cena wins, he gets added to the title match at WrestleMania, instead of having him beat AJ and get added to the WWE title match at Fastlane. Not really a question, but I agree. I think Nakamura and Cena, I don't know if it would have made more sense, because I hate the idea of Cena coming to SmackDown and saying, hey, Nakamura, put your title shot on the line, despite the fact they just lost at Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber. I want your title shot because I'm John Cena. It's like, dude, fuck you. You're a piece of shit. Just because you're John Cena doesn't mean you deserve a shot at the title shot. And I hate when they do that, too. It does make sense. I know what you're going for. And I was looking forward to that happening, too. Putting him in the title match in Fastlane is not going to make a difference. I like Cena better on SmackDown than on Raw at this point. SmackDown could use him. But making it a six-pack challenge with the most random assortment of wrestlers I've ever seen in my life, from AJ to Sami and Owens, okay, I get that. Corbin and Ziggler, really? And then John Cena? Makes no sense. It feels like a WWE 2K18 simulated matchup. Like you press random to get a random bunch of competitors in like a main event at one of your pay-per-views, and this is what comes up. This six-pack challenge with these people, because it makes absolutely no sense. They have no semblance of any real rivalries right now with Cena or the other people. Maybe, again, Styles, Owens, and Zayn, but beyond that, who the fuck cares? Anyway, what was I saying? With Nakamura and Cena. For Cena just to show up on SmackDown and say, hey, I'm John Cena, I want your title shot, would be so stupid. But I would much rather take Cena and Nakamura over Cena and now the six-pack challenge for the WWE title. And now I'm not even sure what they're going to do with Nakamura Fastlane. I guess they could do Nakamura and Rusev. Who cares? And I like Rusev, but it's like, who cares, I don't know. Nakamura and Cena, which we've seen before, but they could have a great match. But like I said, though, I don't like when they put the title shot on the line. Like with Asuka, they didn't put her title shot in the line at Elimination Chamber, but they did say that if she beat Asuka, she'd be added to the title match at WrestleMania. Now, that makes more sense. I hate when they have people say, I'm going to put my WrestleMania Royal Rumble win on the line, and if you beat me, you get my title shot. It completely defeats the purpose of the Royal Rumble. And they look like idiots when they lose. Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, Roman Reigns when he did it in 2015. I hate when people do that. It's so annoying. But yeah, just the whole thing about SmackDown, nothing ever really makes sense in the show, so I can't say I'm surprised. Jeremy's second question here. Do you think WWE should have the Usos versus New Day versus Bludgeon Brothers in a TLC match of the titles at WrestleMania? That would be awesome. Kind of like making a new Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys, and then the Hardys from WrestleManias 16 and 17. That would be great. If there's any three teams that can get a great match out of each other at WrestleMania, it would be those three teams. But then again, I feel like Gable and Benjamin also deserve another shot because they're awesome too, and I think they'd be perfect for a stipulation like that. But then again, I don't really want a 4-way. I don't know. I mean, Usos and Bludgeon Brothers, they really just want a standard tag team title match at WrestleMania. As long as they're on the show. That's really all that matters. We get multi-team tag team title matches every single fucking year. But you know what? As long as they're on the show, who cares? That's all that really matters. And it'd be a great match, too. I don't think they're going to do it, because we just had a TLC pay-per-view a few months ago. But that hasn't stopped them from before. That hasn't stopped them, before from doing a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania, despite having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So that would be awesome, and I would be in full favor of that, especially since the Usos and New Day were involved in that 3-way tag team ladder match at, I almost said WrestleMania, at TLC 2015. I was there for that match. RJ, too. Great match. One of the best matches I've ever seen live, and it was a ton of fun, though. But just replacing the Lucha Dragons with the Bludgeon Brothers would be great. Or Gable and Benjamin, but Bludgeon Brothers at this point, they've had so much momentum. They've been on SmackDown every week. They pretty much have to be a part of that tag team title match at WrestleMania. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, speaking of the Bludgeon Brothers, did you catch the Bludgeon Brothers nameplate graphic appearing for John Cena? The funny thing is that I think I was in class at that point. And when I'm in class, I get out of class around like 8:30. So when I'm in class, I'm never doing anything in class, so I don't think I'm a terrible person, but I have my laptop on. I keep on SmackDown so I don't miss anything, but I put it on mute and I have the closed captions on. And so I'm either listening to a lecture or doing something else. But I just so happen to see that moment for like a split second. I'm never really paying attention, but to the computer, not to class. I'm talking about the computer. SmackDown. But I did catch the split second where they showed the Bludgeon Brothers graphic when he showed up, which was pretty funny. I'm like, are they going to come out and interrupt him? Like, that seems really random. Maybe it's like in alphabetical order. It went from C to B. Instead of Cena went to B, which is Bludgeon Brothers. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. But still, I thought that was funny. Next question. Why exactly did The Miz have to wrestle Finn Balor right after wrestling Seth Rollins on Raw? Like I said earlier, I have no idea. Maybe Kurt Angle's just a neglectful GM. Just a bad GM in storyline. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I know Kurt Angle said, oh, if whoever beats you tonight might get a title shot at WrestleMania. Why wrestle 2 matches in one night? Even in my mind, I'm thinking, why not just save this for next week? We got 6 weeks until WrestleMania. We're going to get a bunch of weeks where it's going to be like the Miz-Taraj versus Rollins and Balor. We're going to get that match at least 3 or 4 times. I can guarantee you of that right now. So why not just space it out, do Rollins and Miz this week, and then, tease Balor and Miz for next week. And, you kill 2 weeks that way without... I know they killed a lot of TV time with Miz on Monday, which was great because both matches were really good. But I don't know, I thought it was a little weird. But also in a storyline sense too, from what you're talking about, yeah, that also made very little sense. Why would Angle have The Miz wrestle twice? I know he hates The Miz in storyline, but still, what did Miz do to deserve that? Scarlett's next question, best and worst of Elimination Chamber. Best, the 2 chamber matches. Like I said, the best match was the women's chamber, but the men's chamber was also really, really good. Those 2 chamber matches, and Asuka and Nia Jax, like I said earlier, I'll talk about it with RJ's question a little later on. But I really liked that match. I really liked Asuka and Nia Jax at Elimination Chamber. The worst, the Rousey segment was, started off a little rough, but they did pick it up down the stretch, and the table spot was really well done, so that was good. The worst, there really wasn't anything too terrible. The tag team title match was all right. It was actually probably a little better than expected, to be honest with you. I didn't care about it, but it's probably, if I had to say best or worst, it'd probably be in the worst category, just because no one cared about it. And also Hardy and Wyatt. Again, decent match. I enjoyed it for what it was. The crowd didn't really seem to, which was unfortunate. I'd put that in the worst column, but it wasn't too terrible. So overall, I thought the show was pretty good. Enjoyable, at least. Maybe not great, but it was entertaining overall. Should Bray Wyatt be at WrestleMania? Why? Why at this point? Unless they're going to build to, which I hope they will, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy in like a Hardy compound match at WrestleMania, a la the Hollywood Backlot Brawl from WrestleMania, I think 12, with Roddy Piper and Goldust. That would be pretty cool. But unless they go outside the box and do something like that, why should Wyatt be at WrestleMania? Maybe put him in the Battle Royal, but I feel like they wouldn't do that. So I don't know. I don't think so. At this point, what has he done to deserve a spot at WrestleMania? What match would make sense for him at WrestleMania? If they were not going to do like a final deletion type match at WrestleMania, I guess they could. And I know they're teasing it, but they got 6 weeks until WrestleMania. They're going to kill more time with a feud that really has not been that good recently, with more matches on Raw until they build a Final Deletion, which maybe the end game in all this will be really, really good with a Final Deletion-esque match, with like Jeremy Borash booking it, who was a part of the original Final Deletion. Now he's a part of WWE. I think he's reporting to NXT. But bringing in Borash to book a Final Deletion-esque match at WrestleMania would be very, very smart of the company to do. But beyond that, other than a Final Deletion match with Matt Hardy, with Woken Matt, then who the fuck would care about Bray Wyatt being at WrestleMania if it's not in the Battle Royal? I'm going to say no, but if they're building to Final Deletion at WrestleMania, then yes. But they might be doing it way before WrestleMania. I guess we'll see. Expectations for Fastlane. They're not very high. I'll tell you that much. Looking at the card that we have right now, Charlotte and Ruby could be really good, but the women's division has done nothing to get me excited about what we might see on that show. The division has been so poorly handled. Why should I care about Charlotte versus Ruby Riott? The Usos and New Day might be the only match I'm really looking forward to on that show, just because their matches are always awesome. But they might add in the Bludgeon Brothers or do Usos versus Bludgeon Brothers, whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. The main event is such a clusterfuck. A clusterfuck of epic proportions. Who cares? Who the fuck cares? So it could be a good match, don't get me wrong, but it looks like a lazy-ass way of getting everyone on the card and making it look like AJ does not have a shot in hell of retaining his title. But he will retain, as he should. So why the fuck would you need 5 other guys to make us think that his title's in jeopardy? I think that is so silly. And also Bobby Roode and Randy Orton, a feud that has not been lighting the world on fire. It could be interesting. We've never seen them one-on-one before. But Jinder Mahal is either going to be added to the match or get involved. So I'm not really looking forward to that either. So my expectations are low, so I'm hoping they are exceeded. But again, I'm not getting my hopes up, because the SmackDown pay-per-views recently have not been lighting the world on fire. SmackDown itself has not been lighting the world on fire. It's been a pretty bad show recently. At the Average Grunt from Twitter, what do you think about this promo from Drake Maverick? I gotta admit, it won me over. Now I have some hope for the future of 205 Live, but do you think they're going to keep this focus on pure wrestling past WrestleMania 34? So the promo that he's talking about, WWE put up a promo with like an interview type thing with Drake Maverick on their YouTube channel right before 205 Live this week. And they aired clips of it on 205 Live this week, but the full video is about 4 minutes long. I checked it out after the show last night. It's well worth checking out in its entirety. Drake Maverick, as I've said before, is a fantastic fit for that role. The guy is he's a natural entertainer. He was really, really fun to watch in Impact, and he's great in this role so far. And he's a good wrestler too, but I think he really shines with his character work. And the fact he looks like he's taking this thing seriously, he's passionate about it, is awesome. It's a breath of fresh air for this otherwise dead Cruiserweight division, which has been finally getting some life breathed into it via this Cruiserweight Championship tournament. But you bring up a good question, and also, too, I should mention this. They did mention, not Impact, he mentioned, which they had before, the fact that he was the former Rockstar Spud. They didn't mention TNA, though they did show shots of him as Rockstar Spud with the bow tie and all from Impact. And there's even a shot of him as Rockstar Spud in an Impact ring, so you can see the turnbuckles, they fucking Impact Wrestling on it. So this company is so wishy-washy with the way they mention, or don't mention rather, TNA. Like, they won't outright say TNA, but they'll allude to things that happen in TNA. Like the former Rockstar Spud name, which he wrestled nowhere else as but in Impact. And they'll even show a fucking picture of his Impact days, but they won't say TNA. Anyway. What was I saying? But yeah, your question was, do you think they'll keep the focus on pure wrestling past WrestleMania 34? They should, and I've said this before, the tournament is an easy gimme. Tournaments are always really well done. They're always entertaining. They're always, worth watching and exciting because you don't really know who's going to win. But beyond that, will the show be able to maintain this momentum coming out of WrestleMania? I think we'll find out even before WrestleMania, because I think the tournament, it's wrapping up at WrestleMania, but we'll find out the 2 finalists like many weeks before the show. Because we already had the semifinal set for one side of the bracket. So I guess we'll find out sooner rather than later who's going to be part of that WrestleMania match, the Cruiserweight Championship. And they're going to have to start booking a real show beyond the Cruiserweight matches, beyond the tournament matches. So yeah, that's I guess we'll find out in the near future. But they should. I would hope that Triple H being in charge of this thing, will take it more seriously, as he has the last couple of weeks, give it more of a sports feel, as it has had recently, and keep the focus on the wrestling. Now, they need stories, too. You can't do matches all the time, because you need real stories. NXT then captures that perfectly, where the matches are great, but the promos and the character work, and there's feuds that are actually compelling. So we need that, too, on 205 Live. So will they keep the focus on the pure wrestling past WrestleMania? Yeah, but I think they'll also start to incorporate more stories and character work as well coming out of WrestleMania, which they need to do, because you can't just solely rely on wrestling to get these people over, especially in WWE. At Brad Bernard from Twitter, we got final few questions here. First from Brad and then from RJ. Brad's question was, the Cruiserweight Championship Tournament, speaking of which, has been awesome so far, and it is by far my favorite thing in the company at the moment. And although the crowd reactions are getting better, will WWE be able to get fans invested in the final 2 participants of the tournament? I hope so. The thing is that the Cruiserweights have been MIA on Raw recently, so I'm hoping that once the finals are set, and whether it's Cedric Alexander versus... I'm pretty sure it's going to be Drew Gulak going to the finals. So it's going to be Gulak versus either Roderick Strong or Cedric Alexander. Probably Alexander. Thankfully, we're already pretty familiar with both guys. So, main roster fans anyway are already fairly familiar with them from their Raw days, from their time on Raw, which isn't a lot of time because the Cruiserweights never were really given a lot of time on Raw. But nonetheless, they need to get these guys on Raw more. And maybe not. I think Raw's been a better show recently, but they've been off Raw recently. Maybe there's a method to the madness here and wanting to establish their own identity for these guys, but how will anyone from the main roster, like casual fans, know who they are at WrestleMania if they're not on Raw? So that's the issue. But it's got to be a part of the main card. If you really want us to take this thing seriously, it's got to be on the main card for WrestleMania. I don't expect that it will be, but just in theory, I think it would make more sense if they really want people to believe in this reboot, this hard reboot of 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division on the whole. It's got to be a part of the main card. But will they be able to get people invested in the final 2 participants of the tourney? Again, it remains to be seen. I think putting them on Raw, showing video packages for them, doing what you're doing on 205 Live, but putting it on Raw, I think is what needs to happen. But with Triple H running the Cruiserweights and Vince running Raw, it's not going to happen, I don't think. I don't expect it to happen. But that's how I would get people to care about the final 2 participants in the tournament, is by showcasing them on Raw, but not by doing 2-minute fucking Cruiserweight tag team matches. By giving them promo time and video packages. And people will be quiet for them at first, but if you give people a reason to care, then over time, the reactions will get better and better and better, to the point where they're going to be no different than any other person in the roster, which isn't a bad thing. I'm saying that people will start to recognize them and treat them no different than anyone else in the roster, which they need to do. Because right now they're kind of in a bubble of their own, which can be a bad thing and a good thing, but it's largely been a bad thing because people see Cruiserweights, they see the purple ropes, and they don't care. Because they know it's insignificant, they're inferior to the main roster heavyweight guys. They need to put them on the same level, on the same pedestal as everyone else on Raw and SmackDown. And only then will people start to care about the Cruiserweights. At RJ_Marceau, my brother Mr. Marceau, the final 2 questions of the day here today. When was the last time a non-title women's match was as good on pay-per-view as Nia Jax versus Asuka was at Elimination Chamber? Great question. I know SmackDown did a few. It's been a while, first of all. Absolutely been a while. And I know RJ and I were going back and forth about this in agreement through text after Elimination Chamber on Monday, because I watched it a day late. We were saying how great that match was. I really, really enjoyed that match. And I'm not a big Nia Jax fan. And I don't think Asuka carried her because I thought Nia Jax had a good performance as well. I really enjoyed that match a lot more than I thought I would. Last non-title match that was as good as that. Again, I know SmackDown did a few feuds, late 2016, early 2017, that weren't for titles, that were also very good. I mean, I guess you could say like the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches, but I mean, I guess the title was kind of on the line in those, even though it wasn't a championship, it was like a briefcase. If you don't want to count those, then, I mean, the Carmella Nikki Bella matches were pretty good, especially that no DQ match they had at TLC 2016, so probably that match, but I feel like even Asuka and Nia Jax was better than that. Mickie James and Becky Lynch had a match at Elimination Chamber last year that was non-title, another good match. not as good as I thought Nia Jax and Asuka was better than that. And as well as on that same show, I think we got Nikki Bella and Natalya, which was also good. But again, not as good as Nia and Asuka, I thought. So yeah, we've had a few here and there. But I thought Nia Jax and Asuka was the best non-title women's match we've had on a pay-per-view in at least over a year, if not a few years. Because I know we didn't have many, non-title women's matches on pay-per-view for a long time before the brand extension came around. We had, some here and there. We had, Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch on a kickoff show at TLC 2015, which I know RJ and I were there to see, which was pretty good. But it was on the kickoff show, so how many people really cared? I know they had Sasha and Becky versus, I think, Team Bad's Naomi and Tamina at, not Elimination Chamber, I think it was Fastlane 2016, which was also really good. But again, I think Nia Jax and Asuka was better than all those matches I just mentioned. So, best non-title women's match on a pay-per-view in at least a year or two, if not much longer. And his last question, which I kind of answered earlier, but again, what is better? Rey Mysterio versus John Cena, or The Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania 34? Rey Mysterio and John Cena. I said it earlier, but I think Mysterio and Cena have not faced off enough where it's like, oh, Cena and Randy Orton again. No, it's like, this is a fresh match. You can build off the fact they were the two pillars of SmackDown back in the day, or even the 2011 thing. I doubt they would even bring that up, but you never know. Their interaction in the Rumble, there are certain things there they can build off of, or they can come up with a completely different reason. With Taker and Cena, it's the same thing. I mean, really? I know it's a dream match, but honestly, John Cena and Rey Mysterio makes no sense. It's like, how much sense does John Cena and Taker make at this point? John Cena doesn't have a WrestleMania match, so Taker's going to show up and say, I'll face you. You're both losers! I know John Cena and Taker are two of the most established people in WWE history, or at least right now in the company. I get that. They're icons. I understand it. John Cena lost his last two big matches on pay-per-view. The guy's still a big star. I get that. But he's a loser. He would have to win at WrestleMania at this point. Whoever he faces, he's going to have to win. Coming off the Rumble loss and the Chamber loss. I mean, I guess he could lose, but they'll probably have him win. Taker lost last year in a terrible match with Roman Reigns. He, too, is a fucking loser. So what's the point? I honestly don't really understand the point at this point, other than making money, which I know that the companies, that's all they really care about when it comes to WrestleMania matches. And if they're a big attraction, will they sell? Will people buy into it? People will buy into Cena and Taker. It's still a big attraction. As a match, though, it sounds like shit. And Sting and Taker also sounded like shit, even in 2015, but it made more sense to do that then, because they weren't, completely fucking terrible in the ring. And the story made sense, like the two outlaws from WWE and WCW, and even then the ship sailed on that. Let alone a few years later with Taker and Cena, a match they could have done last year, and even last year could have been shit, because Taker was in terrible shape. But anyway, Mysterio is in phenomenal shape, on the other hand. He could get a much better match with John Cena on WrestleMania, and it could make even more sense than Cena and Taker, which it feels like at this point, because there's been zero build-up. Taker mentioned nothing about Cena at Raw 25, like a lot of us thought they would. Nothing was said about the match at all. So really, where is this coming from, other than John Cena saying on Raw, I want Taker at WrestleMania? For what reason? It's a dream match that we've never seen before at WrestleMania? Okay, then why didn't you challenge him last year instead of teaming with your fucking wife-to-be? You know what I'm saying? Like, in storyline, it makes no sense. So for those saying that, Cena and Mysterio is illogical, honestly, it's a little more logical than Taker and Cena from a storyline standpoint at this point in time. So absolutely, Cena and Mysterio, much better match. Gets Mysterio back at WrestleMania, back in the company. Taker and Cena, I just do not see what purpose it serves. What, passing the torch for a guy that's already filming fucking Daddy's Home 3? Like, really, what purpose does this serve? I know people hated Roman Reigns beating Taker, but you know what? Roman is their guy. No matter what you might think, he's their guy. So having Taker put over Roman made sense. It shouldn't have happened, but they did it. Taker putting over Cena at this point? Why? Taker losing 3 times at WrestleMania? Why? Cena losing at WrestleMania to a guy that's fucking over 50 years old? I feel like it's a lose-lose either way. At least Cena beating Rey Mysterio kind of makes sense. I wouldn't want to see it, but I guess it would have to happen. Again, I feel like no matter who Cena faces at WrestleMania is going to win, coming off the 2 losses at Rumble and Chamber. But at least Rey Mysterio losing, it's not a huge deal. With Taker, the guy went fucking 22-0, 21-0 at WrestleMania. And now he's lost 3 of the last 5 matches that he's had at WrestleMania. Get the fuck out of here. That's so stupid. Anyway, guys, thank you for checking out episode 222 of #AskGSM here today. We'll be back right here next Wednesday with another all-new installment of #AskGSM. In the meantime, in the between time, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. If you want to send in a question here to the show for me to answer here on #AskGSM, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question in the comment section down below on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So with all that being said, folks, enjoy the month of March. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.